Ross Davies thing is, all I'm saying is, unfortunately, now, legally, now is not the time we can discuss it. It's a legitimate issue.
Okay.
It's a strong issue, but it just has to get agendized.
Okay.
And then put it on the agenda, and then, you know what, let's have at it. And we can, you know, dissect that thing inside out, you know.
So
upside
one
down
more
and
question,
backwards.
if there is a decision being made currently that conflicts what I'm saying, and without it being agendized, then you're just asking for litigation
No.
or what? What are you asking?
I guess what I'd recommend is if you see an item here on the agenda and you think a decision is being made without following the specific, you know, action, specific jurisdiction that the creating statute provides for this commission, then now's your time to bring that up. Actually, now's the time to say,
Well, you know, look at item number 4.1. You guys saying you guys gonna do this, but did you really take a look at the, you know, the area of the cultural gathering rights that you just brought up?
Excuse me, do you mean I have to come in every this cultural gather issues addressed? Why isn't part of the law?
Or judicial practice, and the language of what is appropriate in DLNR's gathering rights, or will that now become a conflict of hunting? The language changed to criminal by transporting something that is traditional to a Hawaiian. How do you look at that?
This is what I recommend. Is I recommend that this item get agendized. When the item is agendized, what I recommend is you bring specific examples of areas that the commission has conducted. You may have a violation of that, or those.
You know, it's a process, learning process for everybody. And you bring your concerns, and those concerns get discussed, and we agendize the item. And that's the only way everybody learns. You know,
So
it's
there's
like-
an opportunity for you to put me on the agenda for us to address this issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay?
Nobody's trying to make you say, no, you're wrong. Nobody's.
No, I'm just saying that I see something here
Yeah.
that pertains to me but not being addressed.
Okay, and I think it's legitimate, and I think the chair's.
As an attorney, it is legitimate. I mean, that's a state statute. It's before.
No doubt,
Yeah.
yeah, sure it is, yeah.
Thank you.
So saying, you know, nothing about it, we're just saying, we'll get it, we'll take care of it.
I just have one comment. Our apologies and that this commission is in its infancy. I appreciate concerns, the couple, and we would like for you to address issues like these so that we can agendize the item. As such, we look forward to hearing what issues.
Whatever approach you want, would be glad to work with that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
For quota, can you put your mic on mute? We can hear your comments.
Chair, we,
Oh, too early. Too early. Go ahead.
Rob is here now, Rob White.
Okay, thank you. And ask if there's any.
For the Congressional Sportsman's Caucus, I'm just gonna speak in just a few words, just so you guys know what this was something that Leon came with, and what it is, it's organized, works with our legislature, and to put people at the legislature, being have the that's some- that's where the decisions and programs. Thank you. Commissioners, the ad hoc committee tasked to the Sportsman's Caucus continues to facilitate the interfacing of Hawaii's legislators with the Congressional Sportsman's Caucus. The public's input to the commission relating to lack of an abolitionism in our state legislature, specifically directed to the making process and what can be done to correct this handicap. On behalf of the Unison, GMAC advised the Congressional Sportsman's Caucus through the Congressional Sportsman's Foundation in a request of the state of Hawaii sportsmen and women to have representation in lawmaking process aimed at issues concerning hunting, trapping, and fishing in Hawaii. To be through Hawaii state legislators who have affiliation with the National Assembly of Sportsmen's Caucus. The NASC information flyers have been provided to the public at a previous GMAC meeting and are available upon request. The committee was able to establish a liaison with Mr. Andy Treharney, the Western Regional District Manager for the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation. Mr. Treharney has contacted state legislators referred to by GMAC. Given Hawaii's representatives are requested to be bipartisan and bicameral in meeting acceptance criteria for membership into the National Assembly of Sportsmen's Caucuses. In following, Mr. Treharney on June 6, 2013 reached out to Senator Sloan and Republican Cindy Evans. He was unable to connect with Senator Sloan but was able to reach Representative Evans by telephone and email. The feedback received by Andy was Representative Evans was interested to participate, so he provided her with organizational information to acceptance criteria. Rep. Evans had stated she had some agenda items to be facilitated by the caucus. She also stated she knew some legislators to participation from. Further, contact Senator Sloan and fill him in on the protocol to organize a sportsman's caucus in Hawaii. Again, the committee contacted Senator Sloan on June 7, 2013. Senator Sloan was provided knowledge of his misconduct by Andy Treharney and indicated a coming contact by Rep. Evans. The committee also forwarded attachments to organizational information sent to Evans for Senator Sloan's review. Senator Sloan was puzzled why Mr. Treharney was unable to make contact with him. In turn, he put a personal cell contact whereby he can be contacted. Nevertheless, Senator Sloan is very much interested in participating in the caucus and looks forward to Rep. Evans' call. In following, the committee emailed Andy Treharney on Friday, June 14th, requesting confirmation that he had received Senator Sloan's additional contact number and in fact had spoken to him. Andy replied back that he would be getting a hold of Senator Sloan this week and that Rep. Evans wanted a few weeks to review the information he sent her. Andy had also stated Rep. Evans would need time to speak with House leadership to keep them appraised of what's going on. And that's the end of the committee's report for the action addressed since our last meeting.
Okay, thank you, Cleon. Would you like to make a move to adopt or accept your report?
Yeah, I move to accept my report.
Tom seconded. It is moved and seconded that we adopt and accept the report. Thank you, Cleon. And got a vote here.
Each time you move to adopt or accept something,
Right.
okay. So it's all in.
Yeah, those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? We have 7 ayes, 6 ayes, and no noes. The motion is carried.
It's 7. Okay, unless
Rob's here. We got 8.
Got 8 now?
Yes,
Oh,
Rob's
okay.
here. Mark right there.
Yeah, Rob's here.
Leon.
You have
Oh,
any-
Okay,
Rob's
my
here.
apologies.
Mark, what about Mark?
Okay, so-
Oh,
Right there with the gray shirt.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Rob's outside of the picture somewhere.
Can you see me?
You don't want minutes?
There
Oh,
we
hi.
go. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that.
The tape right there.
Bring the tape.
Okay, then my mistake, I have to back up one for the reports or presentations. Mike Robinson, his flight was too late today to make it, so he's gonna be scheduled for the 15th. And the thing of interest is that is because this is part of that Aina Mauna Legacy Program. So as far as working with the Hawaiian community and all, I think this is an excellent project. There's several things. One is, this is part of the gorse eradication project. Over 10,000 acres of Wine land is taken over by gorse. And they're looking at ways, considering all wild gorse eradication options. So this is something that we had said, hey, we can work with Mike Robinson, he's the forester and the lander. And possibly, there's a report from Paul Buneman a while back that for a gorse control with goats and sheep, and they're able to reduce from pasture with 66% gorse to 7% using 44 goats per every about 85 acres. And in 1 year, they were able to reduce gorse from 66% to 7%. And this is 2-meter high gorse. So it's some pretty high stuff. And the side to that would be food for the beneficiaries of Wine land and also hunting opportunities. And this wouldn't require any chemicals and all this other stuff. Currently what they're trying to do is, poison, burn, bulldoze, plant trees to try to shade it out and all that. So we thought as far as being a whole thing that we could work with Hawaiian land on this one, I think that would be something worth pursuing. So we'll have to wait till July 15th meeting and then Mike will give the presentation on that. Okay, the next is just a quick report by Paul on the meeting, legislative session that he went to. Paul, can you just explain a little bit what with Malama Solomon and just to give an update of.
Well, just a quick update, I guess, because it wasn't too much. I attended the presentation. Dwayne was also present. We listened to their presentation about the amount of money that they brought back to the Big Island. And I just asked them a simple question, just what are they doing for the fishers and hunters of the Big Island? And to be honest, they didn't really answer the question directly because, honestly, I haven't been really doing anything, all of us. They explained pretty much, there's a conflict of agendas, there's federal things that is happening, and it's just, she kind of trying to explain, the current situation, which is, we kind of understand what current situation is, and we want it to change. After the meeting was done, I pushed both Malama Solomon and Gil Kahelit to see if they would meet with our group, and both of them agreed. So we have to follow up with them and formalize the meeting to talk with them and bring some issues up with them that, is keeping all of us, because this is our community, this is our lifestyle.
She used to be able to approach you before, Malama Sultan. She was with the hunters at time.
Yeah. I talked to Link with her husband outside, for a while.
Her boys all hunt.
Yeah.
They all go bathing, big game hunting, and all. So for them to let it take it away from the years is ludicrous.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes.
I would like to add my 2 cents.
Okay, go ahead.
What I found interesting was that she may have not said this directly, but I think she intimated that there is this federalization of the bureaucracy going on. And I think she recognizes that. And she recognizes that that has come about, because you gotta follow the money. And she's trying to undo this, but, she said it's complicated and, you peel one layer and then there's another layer there, so. This is something that I think I've mentioned before to various people in the community. And I don't think it's well recognized, but federalization of state lands and resources is where it's at. You know, we, as an example of that, we are now having to go through a critical habitat process with U.S. Fish Wildlife. And prior to that, it was something else. And then prior to that, it was something else. But all of the initiatives are federal initiatives. State is not doing it. And so the feds come in and say, they say things like, well, state not doing it, so we're gonna do it. And you know, they have a lot of money there. So they put a lot of money into it. And the state follows it. So, I thought the way she said it was a bit of an apology for the present administration, but the fact that she seems to recognize that, I think, is an important thing. As another example of all this is, you know, you see in the federal documents within the past 5 or 10 years, well, 5 years, you start mentioning the Ahupua'a concept, which was not there prior to, you know, but this all fits into this critical habitat situation. And basically, when the feds take over an area, they run it. The Northwestern Islands is the same, is a classic example of what they do. You know, they make it a sanctuary, and then they make rules. And I don't know if it's general knowledge, but U.S. Fish Wildlife or the federal government does not have to have public hearings for rule changes. They just change the rules. So I think it's something that we ought to be really, really, really sensitive about. And we should be watching that activity very carefully. One of our problems is that we don't have the kind of resource we need to keep track of this stuff. And I don't know how we do it. Whereas, you know, the others, some of the other groups that are interested in this area, I mean, as soon as something happens, it's in their network, right? So I think what we have to do is we have to build bridges with groups that may be sensitive or interested in these issues and try to work with them. So.
Thank you. Okay, the next order is, well, I was gonna ask the secretary, can we change it to unfinished business? Substitute it for old business? I'd rather see unfinished business, old business. Thank you. Okay, let's see, update on the Hawaii administrative rule changes to chapter 124.
So pertaining to the proposed amendment changes to HAR Chapter 124, does the chair hear a motion to identify the parts of or the entirety to be opposed and request a letter signed by our mayor to the BLNR opposing said amendment changes? Do I hear?
Second.
Okay, there is a second. It is seconded. We identify
You're on.
You have to turn your mute back off, John.
Excuse me. Yes, Chair. If I wasn't mistaken, there was already an ad hoc committee generated toward HR 124. It was Paul and Tom Lodge and Francis.
yeah.
Has that been dissolved?
Yeah, because that was.
As far as getting to issues under this 124, where they can collect information from different entities, what they oppose, impartial or entirely. I mean, I can give you some issues myself. I didn't think we were going to address this in detail. I thought maybe we'd establish some sort of committee to collect this information. But if I had to give you an answer now, there's issues right off the bat with non-representation from the Big Island representative, Robert Pacheco, who sits on the board. Every time they have a rule or amendment change, he's not there at these public hearings to actually, get input and receive feedback from the public. And that's just a general issue with this amendment rule change for 124, without representation on the board. Some of the other issues are the added words in their definition. They give a definition for what is wildlife, and when they started out saying it is said to mean, any member of a non-domesticated species of animal kingdom and game mammals and game birds living in a wild and non-domesticated state. And at the Kailua Kona meeting, that public meeting that I went to on March 28th, it was brought up to them, who's this said? Who's this entity? And they couldn't give a definitive answer. But nevertheless, if you talk to the DLNR, the department's biologists, I have in the past, and they consider wildlife as every animal kingdom / species, whether domesticated at one time or not, which is born and habitates in the wild, period. And I know there's people that speak to me that they're opposed about this language because it gives DLNR the right to choose what lives and dies at their discretion. And the way of their wording. I know subject matter in this 13124 is the crop damage nuisance and threat to human health and safety permits. They're basically giving the department the authorization without public input to take action however they need to see put. And that's a problem that I hear from the public. Another one is the penalty issue that they want to amend this 124 with. The public's up in arms with, they don't even enforce the laws that are on the books right now, and now they're adding more penalties and heavier penalties directed to injurious and introduced wildlife. There's also talk with this amendment change to 124, they have an exhibit list, and it lists the injurious wildlife in Hawaii. And the public at the meeting in Kona on March 28th, and you hear talk on the street, is they want to know who specifically in the department decides what species are injurious wildlife. And they really won't give a specific person. They just say the department. And it was also put to them on March 28th, and you hear people talking out on the streets, is why are not wild cats included on the same list? And the department representatives at the time at the public hearing on March 28th responded by saying that cats are not considered wildlife. And it's common communication between the hunters in the district that I live in, District 9, that wild dogs and wild cats are a detriment to our natural resources. And why aren't they included on this injurious list? And then lastly, I'll let somebody else jump in here, but there was issues brought up with this amendment change on 124 is they included doves and pigeons as injurious wildlife. And there was a gentleman named William Isaac that stood up and gave public testimony on March 28th in Kona regarding these proposed amendment changes, and he was put it to them, say, hey, I raise pigeons. take my pigeons to Maui, I let my pigeons go on the race and they come back. You gonna come give me a ticket? And he was told that you can be ticketed, you know, you would be breaking the law. And it was brought up that you could possibly get a special use permit, and that would be delegated from the local branch department. So there's issues with cats aren't gonna be on the injurious list, but pigeons are. So there's more issues than that. I didn't think we were gonna talk specifically on issues in this proposal. I thought maybe there would be an ad hoc committee reformed to collect the aggregate discussions toward this proposed amendment change, and then submit it to the mayor's office for his review and consideration. And then, you know, at that time, if the mayor concurs with the recommendations by the GMAC advisement, you know, his office could then generate an amicus letter to the board, whereby providing substantive testimony in opposition to this proposed amendment change being considered by the department relating to this HER 124. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Tom?
Let me make a comment. I provided, I think most of you have what I wrote on some of the areas that I found detrimental in 124 to start with. Cleon now has others, pigeons and others. I've heard about the pigeons from others as well. They're saying, you know, they're making criminals out of people without any kind of due process. They're making, you know, just making these decisions. I mean, for myself, I almost feel that they should start, just do away with this whole thing and start all over again. It's essentially what I feel they should be doing. Because there's so many bad sections that have been introduced with this 124. Trying to get a permit to move wildlife from one place to another. If you find an injured animal, you have to get a permit before you can bring it home. I mean, it's burdensome, and it doesn't make sense. And they're doing it without making any comment with the public before they come up with these things to start with. And I think that we should tell them to shelve the whole thing. I mean, that's my opinion. Would be to shelve the whole thing, come back and talk to the public, and then come back and start over. Would be what I would suggest. But
I think that'd probably be the easiest thing to do then.
Yeah, and in that request, Commissioner Lodge, I would ask that you include the wording that we request the attendance of Mr. Rob Sheko, the Big Island representative who sits on the board, who's going to be making a decision on this. Probably they can do it in the next meeting.
right.
So I think we need to be diligent, move forward with this as fast as we can.
Okay. Mark?
A couple thoughts. First, 124 exists, so we're talking about the amendments to it, right?
That's correct.
So I think if we're gonna be successful in stopping this, simply put, if you exempted game animals from 124, the hunters and gatherers of the island would probably be able to live with what exists, right? So if you excluded penalties for moving pigs, right? We'd probably be way better off than if we let these amendments go through. There's issues with. I think a lot of 124 has to do with snakes and bugs and incredibly ugly pests that probably all of us don't want on the island. But the way they wrote it, it makes criminals out of everyday pig hunters, right? When they move a pig. So we could go at shelving it, which I think is scrapping all of 124, which I think is probably not going to happen. We could go after every detail like Cleon's suggesting, which is, I think, an uphill battle. If we got the county council and the mayor to put in verbiage here exempting game animals and get the list of what we think a game animal is exempted from the penalties associated with the amendments to 124, I think we'll we'll get 80 or 85 or 90% of what the hunters of Hawaii want with just that simple change. That would be my suggestion if we try to want to be successful here as we move forward. I think the mayor could probably get on board with that, the county council could get on board with that, and our chance of being successful, I think, goes up.
Excellent.
I think,
Okay.
I agree with that. I agree with what Mark said.
All right.
But there already is in law a list of game animals. So we just can refer to that section.
It's the amendments that are the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have a question of the Corp Council here. Is it proper for us to get input from the people who are here?
The public comment, if
It's over.
yeah, but you can always, the chair can also always call people up, if somebody wants to make a comment or something like that, and engage in the dialogue.
Okay, how would I do that? And I would like Terry, would like to. And this,
Because he.
do I have to make a particular motion or?
Okay, just add it to this chapter, but just bring you an update. We gave comment to this and called up the.
You gotta come up and come on the record. State your name.
We gave comment,
State your name. So
we gave comment to this chapter that you're talking
Speak your
about.
name.
Polycouple Deadman. And that, the date for comments already passed, it was last month. And that, the only questions they had was our questions on the legality of using and making traditional practices by changing the definition. Now a traditional practice would become criminals. So we raised that issue with the AG. He's right now looking at that. That's the only thing hanging it up right now, is our claims that the language in defining it makes me a criminal when the state's supposed to look at upholding my rights and my traditional practice. So that's where it's at now. As far as comments that you folks can give, good luck, it's too late. Thank you.
Did it go, do you know if it went to the board yet?
Or, yeah, it's already done. The woman said no more comments. We called up to find out where it's at.
Okay.
So I have a question. Did you include on, when you mentioned the animals, your comments included game animals?
Yes, it was the pig that would be a criminal for taking my pig to grandma's house for kalua. So that was the problem we had with the language.
Okay, what about sheep and goats and wild cattle?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yes. It's more of a family traditional thing that we transfer our animals from point A to point B. So we don't want to be criminals for doing it in natural practice.
Okay. Mark?
I recognize the comment period is open, Tony, but I think the influence period is still wide open, right? So I think a letter from the mayor, a letter from the county council, a letter from this commission on changes to 124 to the BLNR board members is the appropriate thing to do.
Any further questions?
And I also spoke with Laura, what is it, Goodman? Bobby, you know her.
Lauren Goodmiller.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I spoke with her about late testimony, and testimony can still roll in. We were told at the March 28th public hearing on this that they weren't going to make a decision on it for over a year. They were going to include feedback from all over the island. But if you actually look at the paper that they gave, they can make a decision in the very next board meeting. So, it's crucial that we move forward with this expeditiously, and I agree with Mark that, substantial testimony can still filter its way in and be recognized.
Okay, I guess can I call the question and just add in that part, or would I have to make a whole other motion? Okay, so I would like to call the question at this point, and it's those in favor of the motion to exempt game mammals pertaining to the proposed amendment changes to HR Chapter 1.
Animal, bird and
Ga-
animals.
Game animals, okay, game animals, and request a letter signed by our mayor to the governor opposing said amendment changes. So those in favor?
Fine.
I don't understand where you're going with this, Chairman.
To adopt
So
March-
you're amending a motion, or?
No, I'm reading the question and then we're gonna vote on it.
Well, the only problem I have with the motion is delegating a response from the mayor. I mean, I think it should be delivered to the mayor, he should review it, and if he concurs with it, and we're just an advocacy group. We can just give him this advisement. You know, I don't want the wording to be saying, and we request, you know, a letter from you, but that it would state that we request that you would review it, and if you concur with it, then if you would generate some testimony, or against it, however he feels.
This is Bill Berhunty with Corporation Counsel. May I make a recommendation that maybe this body entertains a motion, and part of that motion would be for the drafting of a letter on behalf of this commission to be sent to the mayor, and the body of that letter could incorporate some language and identify some specific issues as to what you would like the mayor to do as it relates to some particular action regarding the adoption of HAR 124 amendments. So maybe, you know, this commission takes the position that maybe the amendment should be drafted in a way to include, you know, whatever the representations were made here today. And a formal request from this commission can be sent to the mayor, because we're advisory. The commission is advisory to the mayor. So if you make a recommendation or a request to the mayor that he submit a letter to the LNR addressing this issue, what I recommend is, along with that request for the mayor to submit the letter, you actually draft a letter to accompany the document, so that then the mayor can just sign off on it. Because I would suffice it to say, I don't think the mayor would sit down and draft a letter, you know, on his own. I think if you want to get the most bang for your buck, that's what I'd probably recommend, is you draft a sample letter for the mayor to submit on behalf of.
Wouldn't he ask you guys to do?
I'll give you legal advice. But yeah, I mean, our office would be happy to work with anybody, you know, if you guys are gonna, but there has to be that's a formal action to draft a letter, send a recommendation to the mayor. So that has to be approved by a majority of the commission members.
Well, I move we adopt your motion.
Verbatim.
I second.
Thank you,
I
Council.
think that's a good.
Okay, do we want to know who's going to draft the letter? Tom? Okay, Tom.
Yeah, I'm willing to help.
So we have to actually put a motion on the table.
Yeah.
So somebody, one of you can come up with
I move that we ask the mayor to.
Draft a letter.
I move that we ask the mayor to draft a letter, which we would do the initial draft. This is getting convoluted, but I'm trying to cover these things. But basically, I move that we ask the mayor to draft a letter containing those items that we talked about tonight, and send it to the DLNR, or DL, the board, for their action.
A second.
Okay, second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and I have to state what you just said again. I have to state the motion again. So basically, just to draft a letter and get it signed by the mayor exempting game animals from HAR 124.
I think, well,
Okay.
yeah.
All in favor, say
Aye.
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 those opposed. The motion is carried. We have 8 ayes.
Who did the second?
Tom.
Tom?
Tom
Thank you.
second, I moved.
Right.
I got that,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
So I think,
Just for my information, what are we talking time frame?
I was just gonna bring that, but like, I'll try and draft a letter
As soon
tomorrow.
as possible.
Okay.
Right. By the end of the week is fine. There's a good reason for that.
Okay, next was the improve animal salvage with discussion and objectives to reduce waste. And we kind of bounced this around the last few times, and it's a hard one to dig our teeth in though. So I would need to hear a motion or something on this if we were gonna try to do something here.
I move that we reopen the discussion on meat salvage activities.
I second that.
I can't hear that. What was that, Ike?
I move that we reopen the discussion on meat salvage.
Okay, did somebody second it?
Yes, I second.
Tom
Okay,
seconded.
Joe.
It's been moved and seconded that we open the discussion on animal salvage.
Yeah, can I make a comment?
Yeah, the floor is open to discussion.
Okay, Tony discovered about 50 animals on Hawaiian Homestead up there, right?
Yeah.
About 50 animals that were discarded after being shot on the Hawaiian Homestead. You know, our game animals are kind of precious to all of the island. And I think that we need to, at some point here, address all of the entities that, whether it's Hawaiian Homes, the LNR, feds, or whatever, that they respect this idea of wanton waste. And that I know that the Palaka law is making attempts to try and accommodate that, but I think they need to make a strong commitment to the community for that. Because once our game animals are gone, that resource is gone. And we don't know that we're gonna have any kind of propagation or repopulating of any of these animals, and so when they're lost, they might be lost forever. So I think it's all entities, I think we need to impress upon the fact that we need to impose this idea of salvage.
Tom, can you explain to everybody what that wanton waste?
Wanton waste, basically, is if you shoot an animal, leave it, just let it rot. You know, you need the wanton waste rules require that you take the animal. If you shoot it, you take it. And, you know, basically for the purpose of consumption or other utilization. I mean, you know, like just, you know, some people use the hooves for glue and things like this. You know, whatever it is that you take that entire animal, and you know, we need to respect these animals too. You know, not just us. You know, it's also the animal. So we need to respect the animal. If we kill it, we need to do something with it.
So is that in our laws?
We don't have any laws that specifically address that. Yeah.
Is that, Bobby, would that be something we could do with the county council? I mean, would do that as a council thing, or that would be?
Well, it should be
Because
both.
that would be something that.
It should be council, and it should also be in 183.
You certainly can ask the council to pass a law like that.
And then that's where we would need all the support of our community. Because that way they cannot just go and kill animals now, they'd have to do something with it.
Well,
Just add, want to add, there is a law, I think that,
Come to the table, call it up, and then just say your name again.
for a couple of Deadman, I think you do have a county ordinance or a law, and it has to do with eradication from the helicopter. The language of that law quotes about the killing and letting the animals rot, so you do have a law defending those languages about letting animals rot because you passed a helicopter one that says you can't do that no more. And it's not just out of fun, it was because of letting it rot that the language was put into
Right.
the area.
Is that language specified like some type of enforcement though for that?
Yes, it does. Well, the enforcement would be the county to enforce it, the language of the bill. You know, it doesn't have penalties or anything in it, I think. but I already have that passed about.
Because you know they shot 700.
Well, I think there
60
should be.
sheep on Mauna Kea last
So there
month.
should be some comment from corporate counsel on how we look at the law that says it's reason because of leaving it to rot, and then we got this question about.
That law is a county ordinance or?
Yes, it is a county ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Somebody else?
Can I
has a
clarify
complaint?
one thing? with you?
Sure.
Did
This is
that,
Tom, say your name so she knows.
Tom Lodge. Did that address the leaving the animal because of helicopter shooting?
Yes, it says it all in there, I think about the pono, about the whole language of the bill was just because it was shooting it, letting it rot. It wasn't necessarily, it was bad shooting from the aerial, but the idea of what they did after that was a strong language in the bill about letting things rot.
Did it address at all? I mean, like, for example, if I was,
I would pull it out, it's Bill 261.
61, yeah.
if we were, for example, hunting and I just shot an animal and left it, would that apply to that also?
I thought it was just the aerial,
Right, so we're talking about any.
aerial, but it's just the practice of letting things
Right.
rot.
Yeah.
It's the language I think you should. Yeah, because it's food. And it wasn't pono according to the county council.
So I have a question.
Ike, mention your name, please.
Ike Yoshina, this federal stipulation and this federal court case that we just had, where they said that the federal law overrides the county charter, et cetera, et cetera. How does that impact this?
I would, honestly, I would have to go and read the actual holding of the case. My understanding that there was an issue regarding preemption, and the court ruled that because the area is so closely regulated by the feds or the state to a certain degree, the county's adoption of that rule, which was in contrast to the federal state regulations, would not be enforceable pursuant to preemption doctrine. So that's my understanding of it, but I don't want to say specifically that is what happened. So I'd have to honestly say I'd have to go back and take a look at it.
If you are gonna go back and look at it, would you mind entertaining some comments that Tony and I can provide you also?
What I'll do is I'll make the recommendation to Lincoln Ashita, and then I'll let him know that you wanted to touch base with him.
Right now. Okay, yeah.
So what I've done thus far is I've looked at this issue, and under 183, this is Title 12, Chapter 183D,
Of
2.5.
the HRS?
HRS. They talk about the distribution free of charge as the department deems to be in the public interest, gain for the purpose of increasing the food supply of the state. And it's kind of permissible, very discretionary on the part of DLNR. But I was told that this sort of requires that they distribute meat. Now, my reading is that, yeah, they may or may not, depending who's there. And it brings back for me what is the central issue here, and that is the eradication of the animals. And the salvaging part is kind of a way to satisfy people's emotional response to the eradication. So I don't know how we deal with that question, because the caravan is passed already, right? Especially for Mauna Kea. I don't know about any place else, but Mauna Kea, I noticed. So I think that the DLNR DOFA has a process by which it provides for the salvage of the meat. And there is some question, or there was some question about the the efficient distribution of the meat, which involves questions like, if you shoot 700 animals and you only recover 100, something's not quite right there. And so something should be done about that, as an example. So, my review of this thing indicates that DOFA has a process. And apparently there's some fine tuning that can be done. And I know that there is history here as to why it's the way it is now. So what I would like to propose for the council, the commission, is that we put together a paper about that reviews this process and recommends changes to that process. And I'm not ready to do that yet, but I think that's what we should do.
Okay. We had one, so Kalani wanted to say something on this issue, so I'll do for him. Please state your name.
Kalani Di Cueto. I just like to get back to the eradication, like it's state and federal compliance as far as the entity, but like for the county, which is on good on. But in regards to that, maybe you gotta change that to even ground eradication and maybe private firms that own property, that the county has the right to actually foresee all that situations, like Nature Conservancy, Kamehameha School, Bishop Estates, they're doing private eradications with private, bidding and stuff. And it's ground eradication. That is one I think the county can kind of do one whole. But the whole aerial one, if they're not doing aerial, then they're in compliance because there's nothing stated as far as ground. You know what I mean? So everybody know Nature Conservancy is a big stronghold, and so is Bishop Estate, Kamehameha Schools. They're the big landowners. So they don't fall under the whole state and federal per se. Right. You know what I mean? So they gotta follow the county ordinance. That's why you're doing the eradication.
And that's what that wanton waste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the whole
would
thing
be.
is, you know what I mean? We can tell the state on Monarchy and stuff, but it's still state land, federal. So they're gonna look at the whole county thing and say, yeah, but we still can do what we want because they can oversee it at the county level because of what they are. But if we can hit them at, like again, Nature Conservancy, Kamehameha Schools, Hawaiian Homes, because it's still under one state ordinance. They're under one state program, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's something that the state will come up. I mean, it's the state constitution. They're like the whole,
Yes.
with the whole chapter 12 there. Yeah, so that, what I'm trying to emphasize is we gotta try maybe get them to one point where ground eradication is also added to aerial eradication.
I think that's what the wanton waste
That's
thing
what
would
that
do, that
part.
it doesn't matter in
Yeah,
no way. Because I know in
so-
Kauai High, where Cleon lives, that's what they're doing. They're dropping people off now in the helicopter and boom, 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 boom,
Because
jump
now
back
they,
in and
yeah,
fly off.
because now they're in compliance.
Yes.
It's not considered per se one arrow eradication,
those
it was
guys
an
are.
arrow. It was an arrow drop off.
If you
Yeah.
drop on the ground.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So it becomes a ground eradication. So they did away with the whole arrow thing. It's that whole, they find a flaw in it, right? So we see them at our side, we see them all over. Kamehameha School, Bishop, they do it.
Just for my information, and maybe you know
Thank you,
it,
Colin.
maybe.
Well, I'd like to comment after Mark.
The aerial eradication only applies to the Palia habitat, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mark,
Mark?
Yeah, Mark Bartel. So two thoughts, right? I mean, the topic is improved salvage, right? So there's a short-term issue of, as they continue to aerial eradicate on Mauna Kea, I don't even know how many more sheep there are up there, Tony, but that seems to me like that's us working with DLNR. DLNR is doing the killing, right? DLNR is picking up the animals. DLNR needs to do a better job of salvaging the meat, right? That's the short-term Mauna Kea issue, right? So can we influence DLNR? We should try to influence DLNR on that one, right? long-term issue, understand and congratulate the guys for doing the county work, right? But large chunks of this island still are kind of regulated by the state. Longer term or intermediate term, we need to get wanton waste on the state books, right? So the fact is, I mean, the state is pretty much in control of Mauna Kea. If we had a state law on the books about doing this, I think it would hinder the next time they want to fly and shoot, right? I mean, flying and shooting on Mauna Kea, the county ordinance has limited that, right? The lawsuit has overturned that, but wait till the next lawsuit comes, and the next lawsuit comes, and the next lawsuit comes. To think that we're only going to have this battle on Mauna Kea, I think is very naive. There are more coming, I'm sure. So we just need to think ahead and be preemptive, right? So today, Mauna Kea, let's go do DLNR. But I think a state law of wanton waste, that you cannot do this to edible animals, is a reasonable intermediate step this group should take on.
Yeah, so we get back to this question of, is eradication game management? And I think there's general consensus that it's not. And that's what we gotta address, is that game management question. And the fact that the state has failed in its game. I mean, you know, eradication is an example of a failed game management program.
Well, it's not game management.
Yeah.
Wait, hang on, I had, Stephen? Wait. Joe.
I'd like to respond to more.
Okay.
Until,
Joe, state your name, please.
Joe Griffiths case, until we get it on the books that our animals are a natural resource,
Right.
and not invasive. I don't care if it's county, state, or federal level. What we did in the county already by stopping the aerial eradication is power, guys. The people all voted on it. We all got you guys here sitting as a committee. The 39,000 people said what we was doing is right. Once we get the animal showing is it's not invasive, cannot be invasive, given to the Hawaiian, brought by the Hawaiian, it's not invasive. Once we get that on the books, back and Steve can tell you, he can clean this up with the state laws on it. He knows better than I do. Once we get there, guys, we get a motion back and get it into the county or get it into the state, but the animal is not invasive. It is a natural game resource.
I think it's we have to
That
go
will
at the
stop.
county level first.
That's gonna stop so much, like you guys are talking about the wanton waste and all that. That's gonna stop all that. You know, we'll cut the tail off the cat with that.
Tom?
Joe, we have, one way that you folks can help us, there is a bill out there, 104, that is a constitutional amendment to keep our game animals as a resource. And we didn't get too much help. It was a surprise when it showed up this year, but we can bring it back to next year. And that's where we could use your help. We need to get a lot of testimony on that, because right now the only people that testified against it were Nature Conservancy and William Lyle and all these other people.
That's HB 104, and we already had 5 legislatures from this island support it. So we had it
So
going.
we draft something up to get here in front of our county council.
Well, this is the state law
Right.
to amend the constitution.
Right. But on a county level, can we
We
give it to
can
our
do
county?
something like that to the county.
Yeah.
But also with Mark, Pig Hunters of Hawaii some years ago introduced an anti-snaring bill and a wanton waste bill both. And both of those failed at that time. And the snaring bill actually ran into a lot of snags, not just because we wanted to stop snaring on state land, but there's a lot of private people that testified against us as well, because there's a lot of hunters that were going onto private land and trapping pigs for people, in their neighborhoods and things like this, and then using that and selling the meat.
But the wanton waste thing is something that, we have a bill, we should just reintroduce it and have the Game Management Commission and other people get behind it this time, and, you know, with the mayor's voice, that might be helpful.
So is that a motion?
No, I'm just telling you that we have a bill, we've already submitted a bill on wanton waste once before, with pig hunters.
Yeah, no, I
We still
got
have
it. I
that
think we
bill.
should reintroduce. I think we should reintroduce it. We've got to figure out why it failed, make changes, and then see if we can reintroduce it.
Okay, we have one more comment, and then let's figure out what kind of motion we can make to do something with this, so we can move on.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Stephen Arouche.
3 minutes.
Yep, okay. I'd like to help you guys out with this, the meeting. Okay. Brief history. Back when John Giffen was the branch manager for this island, I found a law that requests for meat. Okay, I approached John Giffen verbally, and I requested every bit of sheep meat that was eradicated on Mauna Kea. Okay?
So where's that law?
I think you got them.
I can't find it. It
just requests, the law just says, any person can request meat from the DLNR, and the DLNR has to provide it. Plain and simple language.
That's HAR?
It's HRS. No, HRS, Hawaii Revised Statutes.
So if you can give me the citation, because I've looked and.
It's under Title 12, okay?
Title 12, this one, yeah.
It's in Title 12.
Title 12.
Okay, that's where I found it. And our days, when we wanted to find law, we had to go to the law library. Okay, and we had from 7:45 till 3:30.
But
now you guys get the computer, you can go down at 3 o'clock in the morning.
But if that's an HRS, it has to.
Hawaii Revised Statutes. It's under Title 12, I believe. It's in a 200, I think it's in a 200.
No. You see, now you're gonna get me going.
That is what the intention is.
Because I looked in 200 and no more such a thing.
There is, okay, it is law, okay, because that is why the DLNR provides meat, the sheep meat to whoever wants to come pick it up. It is the law, that's why we do it. I approached John Giffen and.
So how can we get a hold of that information? That's
find the law.
I've tried, he tried.
It's still in effect, he's still bringing out the meat, right? The only
But
thing.
he needs the law to quote the
They're
law.
bringing it out under 183D2.
Okay, well, maybe it's the law.
No, but you're
What
saying
the-
it's stated
Okay,
very
what
simply.
what does that
It
law
says
say?
distribute free of charge
Okay,
as the department deems to be in the public interest.
okay.
Is that what?
That's pretty much the law that I use, yeah. Use it.
It don't sound like what you just said.
Oh, okay.
But I talk in plain English. Okay. But anyway, in the beginning, all of the sheep came out. They're trying to do what they're doing now. Okay, saying if the sheep is herded into an area where the helicopter cannot get them, they're not going to retrieve the meat. Okay, so I kind of stood the ground for the people and I told them, don't hurt them where you cannot get them. Okay, so in the beginning, and the idea of that thing was don't waste the meat. Okay, the sheep were to be brought out where anybody that wants it, even with a two-wheel drive vehicle, has access to it. There wasn't such thing as pull a cart, 15 guys.
Well, that's
can
what
go.
they do now, so
Yeah,
that's something
okay.
that has to
When-
encompass that changes with, and work with DLNR to update that. Then we need people to show up, because at the last eradication, that was the problem. That last day, nobody pulled permits, and excuse my language, but they went apeshit and shot 500 animals that day.
Okay, but the point is, it's supposed to be made public to every person that wants it. The pickup stations, when I arranged it, was one is the Kilohana checking station.
Yeah.
Okay, in the back of Mauna Kea State Park, they got the compound. Okay, and the third one was by Holly Park. They're all two-wheel drive accessible, somebody can go in and see that. They can go pick up the meat. And it wasn't only for certain people. All the meat had to be distributed evenly. If there were 4 guys, 1 sheep, that sheep had to be quartered. 4 guys, everybody 1 quarter. That is the way it was originally set up. Okay. things fell by the wayside after different people took it over. Okay,
Right.
so, you guys can actually try to talk to, what's her name? Lisa, okay? Reinstate the old, program, okay? As far as your wanton waste, legislation, what this body could do is formulate, a letter, it's called a facts and findings. We, the commission, have found that, da 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 da. Okay, therefore, maybe you want to create a county ordinance. This is where you go first, the county ordinance, and you can cover the entire wanton waste within the county. We recommend that, and da 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 da. And then from there, you can have the county council introduce legislation on your wanton waste. Okay, not the commission.
To the
county-
state.
To the state legislature, and that can be done at this session, this upcoming session. The process, do the process, because the process, the thing that you folks are missing is the county council. Okay, remember when the commission was first started, okay? The state said, later with the commission, we don't really listen to those guys, remember all that? Okay, but when this commission came out with the aerial shooting thing, and the county created an ordinance. Now you have got everybody's attention. So don't miss that critical step. The critical step is the county council. Do the process. It's a little longer. It'll be more effective. And it's not that the commission didn't do anything. The commission initiated the thing to roll. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, is there a motion for anything particular then to right now, or do we do anything? Gather more information?
I don't know, Chairman, but the discussion I hear in my district, they want Lisa, they want her job. They want her to be reassigned. I mean, they shot as much sheep in 2 days as they normally do in a year for the last 30 years. You know, even the eco-activists feel, you know, if you have the necessity where you have to incorporate aerial eradication, they only agree upon it if it's done in a professional and a humane way. And I mean, that's across the board, bipartisan, bicameral, by race, whatever. And this was just a blatant misjustice and just a misthought on her part. And they're asking me, well, how come you're not asking the mayor? How come the mayor's not making a statement in response on what happened here on their island? I'm just expressing on what I'm hearing. You know, you can end this, but it's like the community that I discussed the situation about, they're like, there's got to be some sort of balance. I mean, this got way out of balance. This was grossly mismanaged. And why isn't somebody stepping in and saying, hey, I think we got the wrong person in this position here. That's what I'm hearing. I'm just advocating on what I'm hearing.
What can we immediately do? Because they're gonna fly again next month already. And they're planning to fly July, August, and September, I believe. So they're gonna, the animals will be gone by September from Monaco. And that's what we're facing.
Well, I can ask question again? Okay.
Well,
okay, I want to be quick, I got a question. Now, who comes up with the figures on how much was eradicated? They legally go down there and count.
That's their,
That's
that
the
is their
guess.
record,
It's
their
a guess.
record.
So there is
Yeah.
no
There's no
eradication of
exact-
tag and count. There isn't, none whatsoever.
Just what they tell us.
So if I tell you guys, I wipe out 2,000, it's just one guesstimation. So there is no accountability on the tag and count. What I'm saying is, if they don't do that, then maybe we should suggest on tag and count to get a precise number to see what's happening. I mean, give them the work. Give them the work, tag and count. All tags will be accountable and numbered. right? Then it has to be documented. Then that way we can get on legal count on what is justifiable as far as on legal count of the eradication. If that is the whole thing, then somebody got to touch on the ground and count and tag.
The problem that we have in Mauna Kea, the number they want up there is 0. They
Yeah,
don't care.
but what I'm saying is, what I'm trying to get at is, they're giving an estimation of 700. You know, every place they like on 0. That's the bottom line.
I know.
All like on 0. But what I'm saying is, add to it. Don't just, if you, because at the state level, they're gonna eradicate. Yeah, but make them accountable. Make them tagging count. Make them go with the ground crew, labor, workers, paid for tag, numbered, documented, so we can have them in writing.
But why,
So it becomes a ledger.
what would be the purpose of that?
What would be the purpose of that? Not make them easy. Because as far as the county ordinance on the area eradication, they're not observing it as it is, because they state and federal. So, with a recommendation on tag and count, because we request for a proper count of the proper amount that was actually eradicated.
I believe
So
that
they
would-
gotta, you create job, you create
So
the
this
hours,
request
the
would be to
manpower,
what, to
that they
DNR?
don't have the finances for.
Or how do we?
We all know that.
How do we initiate a request like this, and who would that be?
Well, this is a federal deal though.
Yeah.
There's,
Exactly. So,
there's no way.
but what I'm saying is, you ask the mayor, you know, as another thing that you ask, that the mayor can say, well, you know what, for my commission, we request that they like a more documentation of the proper count. That's all we asking, just the proper count.
But Kalani,
Tagging.
We're gonna have to move
So we can
on
document
here, so-
and we can file.
no, I appreciate that, but the thing is that the only thing they have to document is the 0 sheet up there.
Yeah.
That's all they care about.
Exactly, the 0.
We
The
have
0.
no.
But how can you
Okay.
stipulate the 0
All right.
if they're only going to go and guess the
Ike, is there anything that you wanna postpone this indefinitely to another meeting, or how are we gonna
Yeah,
fine tune this into something usable? Thank you.
I'm willing to table this thing because, I think when you go at this kind of, issue, you need to do it in a very, very, studied way.
Right. Well, I think that he has a good point about the fact that if they're doing state land, like in the watershed, they need to count the animals and what they're taking out. That's a little different and much more doable, I think, for us to be requesting.
That's good, but I think we need to really be clear on what, you know, the issue we're talking about and the recommendations we're gonna make. Because, you know,
I don't know how much more clearer and what different recommendations you're gonna get that you need to table this for a later discussion. I mean, we already know it's a done deal, and the end goal is 0 on this. But the thing is a horrible, horrible, inhumane action was just witnessed by the Big Island of Hawaii. Without any media response, without any public response from our officials, nothing. And as far as trying to impede them to do a tag and a count, we discussed this at the last meeting when Lisa attended, and we brought it up. It's basically, you know, manpower. They didn't have the manpower. And given the situation, they thought they had an open window where they could just go in and let's end this deal right now. There's gonna be probably some grumbling, but let's just get it done, get it to 0 as fast as we can. As far as you ask, well, what can we do, you know, besides tabling it? I mean, I don't know if the council would entertain, not an injunction, but a letter of concern to this Judge Seabright. And with the issue that in this 98 what's that?
Sorry, there was a point of order called, so finish up, please.
Oh, well, in the discussion with the county council to Judge Seabright, we can say that, hey, look it, the people haven't had the opportunity that was given to them in the stipulation to be at the table
Okay, well,
to discuss the logistics of this.
Well,
And the
then-
people could have said, hey, look it, you don't have the workforce to comply with this. That, it's a
Yeah.
mechanism to put a stake.
Leon, we can get that in new business, number 3. It talks about the stipulation and everything, so.
I think what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I will sit down with Willie Joe and document what I have found. And I'll put together a thing that speaks to facts and findings. Okay? But, you know, Cleon has an idea of what he is willing to do. I mean, he can draft a, you know, right now, I withdraw my motion so he can do what he wants to do. We can vote on it. You know, if he believes that a statement of some kind to somebody is a way to go, fine.
Do I have to do anything if he withdraws his motion? Okay. Because I think there's a couple issues here, and I don't know if Mark said it correctly, that, you know, Mauna Kea is one thing, but we have other areas, and Manuka Forest Reserve got $3.1 million, and they're gonna be fencing, and that's gonna be eradicating of all the goats there. So there's other projects coming in the wing that we need to try to do something to slow some of this down, or is it, it's just one piece at a time going.
Hey, Tony, what was your figures on Pu'u Colony? What did they get granted for that?
Well, they got 8.5 for 8.5 million for ours, so I'm sure that's probably their number one target project.
Because Lisa is a nurse.
Yes.
That's who she is.
And that brings a whole other question, because they
I
got
talked to Roger about
3.5 million from the general fund and 5 million from CIP, capital improvement projects. And how do you fence our forests and kill our animals with capital improvement project money? I don't know, I don't understand. I thought capital improvement projects was a new roof for schools and, you know, things like that, so but that's a whole other issue, don't get me on now.
But where did they tap into that, Tony?
What's
How
that?
did they get into it? How did they get into that fund again?
The CIP funds, the legislature. That was the SB 1166, they were trying to get the money from the conveyance tax. So that's gonna come up next year. And they're gonna get $8.5 million every year from NARS to do all this forest project. Yeah, probably more, I think it's gonna be like 10. Because they're adding they're adding 10% more. But this year, because the conveyance tax didn't go through, the legislation, the legislature assigned them from the general fund and CIP monies, so they can get started already.
And that money is here for this island? Is that what they got?
It's NARS money, so all the NARS statewide, yeah. Which, you know, the focal point is Pu'u right now, yeah, so that's gonna be. So still, yeah, there's kind of two things going on, so I don't know, Cleon, what?
You know, I'm not against Commissioner Ike's motion.
No,
It's just that.
he withdrew his motion, but we need to know what, I need to have a specific issue that we can move forward here. What are we gonna do?
Agenda for next meeting.
Yeah.
If they would say.
The only thing is.
I agree.
We can agenda for the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, that's on.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm willing to do the short-term stuff.
Okay.
And try to improve that whole thing
Yes.
that
Yeah.
Yes.
Willie Joe is working on.
Yeah, there's something that we can do immediately with Lisa Hadway at DLNR to say, hey, make this permitting process better, more permits, get the people there.
Right.
You know, that's something that we can do immediately. And then try to put together this other wanton waste ordinances and so forth
That
and
is
so
a
forth.
different issue.
Yeah, that's,
Yes.
okay, so we'll try to split that on the agenda for next time.
Point of order on Corporation Council, do they file this motion or postpone or?
I would.
We'd have to postpone it
The motion was
definitely.
actually withdrawn, so.
Nothing's on the table?
No.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Thank you.
We could have postponed it to the call of the chair, but the motion was actually.
I was just kind of
Okay, next is the Hawaii Island Game Management Plan. Now I'm gonna just read a little bit here what's going on. At our last meeting, we requested further action to have the game management plan released. It was suggested that we follow up with that request. And what this initiated is, we originally made a request. Bobby Command sent a letter to Isla asking him to release the plan. I think first was an email and then was an official letter. And I think, have you gotten nothing back? So, we talked about it at our last meeting, and Lincoln said that what we do is make one more request, and that's what we want to do now. And then after that, he says he can go to the Office of Informational Practices, and I don't know anything about that. And he said he would take care of that. I guess he could file a request through the Office of Information Practices. And I'm sorry, I'm ignorant to that right now. I don't know what that was, but what we decided to do was I'd like to hear a motion to review and discuss the letter to Isla, implement changes as necessary to approve said letter, and mail immediately. So I would like to hear a motion for that.
I second that.
No, you guys gotta make the motion. I just want to hear it. I have it, you want to read it verbatim so we don't get Barbara all tongue twisted. Really don't. The blue. Oh, you got his glasses, okay.
Does the chair hear a motion to review and discuss the letter to?
No, that's me, I said that.
Question Island watershed plan.
Right.
Okay.
I said that, right, so you just say,
Alright.
you make a motion.
We
I
make a
move
motion
to
to review and
implement.
discuss the letter to Chairman Isla, implement changes necessary to approve said letter and to mail immediately.
I'll second that. It's Willie Joe second.
Okay, it's seconded and moved that we review and discuss the letter to Isla and implement changes as necessary to approve said letter and mail immediately. Okay, do we have any other discussion on this?
Well, I have a draft.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Okay, so I sat down and drafted this letter. It's to the Honorable William J. Isla Jr., Chairman, Department of Land and Natural Resources, State of Hawaii, Kalani Moku Building, 1151 Punchbowl Street, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813. Aloha, Chairman Isla.
Excuse me, can you talk a little louder, please?
Okay. We, the newly constituted Game Management Advisory Commission, County of Hawaii, were appointed by Mayor Kenoi pursuant to Section 13-4 of our ordinances. And I put in parentheses that perhaps Lincoln or somebody should look at this so that the citation is correct, because I'm not really sure. It provides that the commission, quote, shall advise county, state, and federal entities on matters related to the preservation of subsistence hunting and fishing, as well as protecting traditional cultural gathering rights, close quotes. I'm also suggesting that the official document containing the commission's duties and responsibilities pursuant to the law be attached as an enclosure to this letter. The county should have a one-page something like the other. In order that the commission responsibly carry out its duties and obligations, we would appreciate becoming better acquainted with you and the programs of the department. To this end, we ask that you attend one of our future meetings at the West Hawaii Civic Center, 784-5044 Ani Keoho Kalole Highway, Kailua Kona, Hawaii, 96740. And we should check that address. I think we have a bunch of dates here, but I think we decided on
August.
August, right? Well, you can put that.
Yeah, we'll look at the dates.
On August, whatever that date is, period, the occasion should also provide you with the opportunity to acquaint yourself with the members of the commission. Because of our responsibility to advise our various governmental agencies on sustainable subsistence, hunting and fishing, as well as protecting traditional cultural gathering rights. The GMAC is particularly interested at this time to learn the status of 1, the game management plan, 2, the Pu'u Wawa and Pu'u Honolulu Habitat Protection Plan, or is it plans?
Conservation plan.
Habitat conservation plans. Okay. The dollar dollar contribution made by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to the Department of Land and Natural Resources programs, and the percentage this represents in its budget. And 4, your thoughts as to the impacts of priority 1 and 2 of the state's watershed plan on sustainable hunting and fishing, as well as protection of traditional cultural gathering rights. Perhaps we can attach copies of the priorities as an attachment. We look forward to your participation in our future meeting. Thank you. Aloha and mahalo. Tony Sylvester, Chairman, GMAC. Copy of this goes to Bruce Copa. Now, I also asked if something should be sent to the governor, like a copy of this, but I don't know. It's up to you.
Well, let's discuss that.
Yeah.
Anybody has any changes or any other things we'd like to add to, any other changes, anything anyone would like to add to that? Bruce Copa is the chief of staff for Governor Abercrombie, so we want to make sure that at least his chief of staff gets it. And Ike recommends it, or is asking if we would want it to go to the governor himself also. So that's.
Thank you, Ike.
Okay.
Would there be a problem sending it to the governor also?
CC the governor. No, there's no problem.
There should be no problem sending it to the governor. I think you should absolutely CC the guy on
There's
it.
no ricing on it.
Okay.
Stop it,
He's
carry
got-
on.
The damn guy's got an address, let's use it.
Okay. All right, is there any further discussion then?
Point of order, I only ask that you give staff permission to make any grammatical or other minor corrections, form and function. And I think you already said that, right? Whatever title or whatever needs to be changed. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Terry, would you like to come forward?
Before goes,
Introduce yourself.
my name is Terry Nafiani. I had sent an outline of what we're going to talk about, and one of the second items that of importance I wanted to bring up was the ability you have to inform public of what you're doing. Is that okay? You know, you can do your due diligence to be able to allow the public, as well as the Native Hawaiian community, the opportunity to hear about your issues, so that we don't have to come to your meetings and sit around you all the time, but be able to hear what you're doing. And if there's any concern that we can send in written, right? And that's the process. Am I correct?
Yes.
Is there the additional ways that, I was told that you were going to be doing a website to be able to allow everybody in what you're doing and what you're discussing. But are you able to do a newsletter and leave it at the different county council buildings so that you don't have to make copies for everybody and everybody knows to go there and get one?
Yeah, Bobby, and stop me if I go anywhere where I shouldn't go. We are still talking about the website. We'd like to do it. There's still some issues. There's a number of issues. Some of them have to do with, believe it or not, with things like disabled access and things like that. So, I mean, it's just technical issues that we have to work on. But we're trying our very best to work on something that's official. What we need to do, and we will do this as soon as possible, is to at least have the agendas and the minutes available for everyone to download off of the site. And that should be at very minimum. We should be doing that. And again, like Tony said, and I apologize, we're kind of in our infancy now, it's still some growing pains, but we will get to that, we will do it as soon as possible.
And the importance for that is that when you have issues, you have an entire public to agree to what you're doing, and that power comes from the people. And if you need the help of the people, that's where it starts. You know, so keeping them informed, not putting them in the dark, and communicate with them gives you a better opportunity to function better as a council. And that's one of the things that I recommend that your commission does.
Thank you, Terry.
Barbara, did all the guests sign in with email address that we could send them the agenda and minutes if they're on our list? So I'm building up the list. Thank you.
Okay, so there's no further discussion?
Finish that, and then I'd like to ask everybody a question.
Okay. So I'll call the question into order. Those in favor of reviewing and discussing the letter to ILA, implementing changes as necessary, we did that, and approve said letter and mail immediately.
So moved.
So moved, okay. So, those in favor?
Maybe a second.
Second? Tom, second?
Second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For eyes here in Kona.
Okay, we have 8 ayes and 0 opposed. Oh, any opposed?
Tony, who made the motion?
I did.
I did, okay. And Tony.
And Tom seconded. Okay, the motion is
Okay.
carried. We have 8 ayes and 0 no's.
Tony, and I just wanted to ask everyone here, if you're going to be coming regularly, we've got a lot of people here, and if I need to make other arrangements, like a bigger room or something like that, I'll do that, but I'm just, because like this is our 3rd meeting, and every time we have a 3rd or 4th meeting, every time we have one, more people show up, so I'm sure, I guess there are going to be a lot of people coming, so I'll try and make other arrangements, so it's a little cooler. The air conditioning is on, by the
Yes,
way,
it
it's
is.
just
I
not.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
No termites.
Yeah, anyway, I'll try and get a bigger room.
Just to follow up on, the point that was made, and Barbara, you touched upon it as well, is that if any of you here haven't provided public testimony, but you want to be informed of the agenda and you want advance notice of what's going to be discussed, the HRS, the Sunshine Law requires that if you provide your name and like an email address or something, then the county will then notify you in advance of the hearing, of the meeting, and then you get that advance notice, and then you can tell your friends, or you can forward the email to whoever you want, and then that may help, disseminate or get the public out there. So please provide your name with your email address.
Thank you. All right, okay, moving on to the next order is new business. Okay, working group public access. Does the chair hear a motion?
Yep, Willie Joe. I move to form a permitted working group pursuant to HRS section 92-10.5. The GMAC proposes to form a permitted working group. Those members shall investigate and initiate discussions with DOFA personnel for the purpose of gathering information and assisting the access acquisition coordinator to improve hunting and gathering opportunities by increasing access to public lands.
Okay, is there a second? Second.
Second. Mark.
Okay, Mark seconded. It's been moved and seconded that we said motion. Do we have any discussion on that? I think we did that enough already.
I'd like to make sure that we mention fishing in here also.
Okay, I'm gonna, two things. Okay, one, Jordan says he cannot handle the fishing aspect of it. So if we put that in there, it may run into a problem. But I'd like to hear a move to amend the motion to include gatherers, because that's the same area of the forest and all. This thing only says hunting.
I say gathering. I
You
verbally.
did? Oh, okay, oh,
Yes, I
thank
said
you.
that.
Oh, awesome.
Got it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, fishing, it's up to you guys,
Yeah.
but Jordan specified at the last meeting that he doesn't want expectations, and he mentioned that there's another trail system that deals with coastal and all that. Yeah, so I mean, that's just my recommendation that.
Yeah, but, okay, excuse me, but you know, gathering also happens at the seashore, yeah?
Yes.
So, I mean.
Whether he covers it or not, then we can just put it in.
Somebody, somewhere along the line,
Yes.
we gotta get, pull all this.
Sure.
And make sure that it comes. So that's
So
the
would you
reason
like
I.
to amend it to add fishing?
Fishing.
Okay, so. Can you
And
make a move to
whether,
amend?
well, I move to amend the statement by adding the word fishing in.
Okay, is there a second?
Second that.
And we can also include a statement saying, we understand the limitations of this job.
Okay.
I have a question. Is this addressed specifically just to Jordan?
It doesn't have to be, but
Well,
I think right now.
no,
he's the guy-
DOFA personnel
He's the
and,
personnel.
access acquisition and Jordan as well.
right?
Yes.
Oh, so that's, yes.
Yeah, it's,
So we can work with knowledge.
Right, yeah.
yeah.
Which, this issue? Oh, okay, go ahead.
There's a amendment
Yeah,
on
we're
the-
doing that,
That's what I mean, that's what I'm
It's going on right now.
There's an amendment on the floor to add fishing to the proposed
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's-
motion. So
someone's
that's all
second.
the discussion can be limited to, just
Yeah,
the
okay.
issue of
Only
whether
to
they're
get
gonna
out of
add
this
fishing.
Chair Tony, this is Rob.
Yes, Rob.
Rob White. Didn't you just say that we shouldn't include fishing?
No, I didn't say that. I just said that Jordan Jokio, who's the access coordinator, when we asked him last month, I think Ike or someone asked him to, or Cleon or whoever asked to also include fishing at that time, house hunting and fishing, and he said he wouldn't want to tackle the fishing because he, has so many hours in a
Oh,
day.
he wouldn't, but is there somebody else that would?
You mentioned the woman, Judy's.
I
could
don't
look
know.
it up.
I mean, if you guys know, bring it out. I'm just saying what Jordan said.
So-
I didn't want Jordan to think that we're stuffing fishing down his throat too now. So I just was a
Right,
little
so-
reserved about that.
Excuse,
Yes, Mark?
so there's one person in all of DLNR that does this. He has 0 staff. He covers the entire state. And that's Jordan, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like we got an army of DLNR people working on this, looking at land contracts and legal agreements, and so, my recommendation, Tony, is that, if we're working with DLNR and Jordan, we keep it to what's in his scope, right?
But Jordan did mention at the last meeting, the Nahali program with Debbie Chang, was it? So can she handle the fishing issue?
Also aquatic.
But she doesn't work for DLNR, so I mean, I think she's just on a.
But we can have outsources, we can have public outsources.
Yeah, but
Giving
Cleon,
feedback to.
but Cleon, this motion is to initiate discussions with DOFA personnel and the acquisitions coordinator.
Not Debbie.
That's kind of what I understand.
So
And,
it's specific.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you.
I mean, we can make another one later, maybe.
It's
the next
just probably
meeting
gonna have to
fishing.
be another,
We got burned last month trying to get two
yeah,
complex
this right up.
items. Yeah.
So, we wanna kind of get this thing done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
That was our advice from corporate counsel last month. when
I should
we got in
withdraw
trouble.
my amendment.
Okay, what's that?
I withdraw my amendment.
Okay.
So we're back to the main
Back to
motion.
the
The
main
amendment, proposed amendment has been withdrawn. So any discussion regarding the main motion is on the table right now.
All for it.
I think there was somebody who
Do we,
wanted to.
how do we pick who's gonna be on this working group.
Yeah. First.
Can we do that now,
First, the
or-
working group has to be authorized or approved by the board, then members no more than 4 can be
Right.
assigned to it.
And we can do that tonight?
But you have to determine whether or not you're gonna approve it.
Okay.
One comment.
One comment.
Time is of the
Okay,
essence.
bro.
We got it.
Okay, I'm gonna go with that one.
10 minutes,
Let's wait
and
it
2
here.
items.
That's all. But let's wait it here. When you go with the whole state go and stuff, it's already one state constitution, the Article 12, Section 7-4, access right away for traditional gathering rights. I think we're supposed to be hitting is on our county level, on the planning, and getting big entity corporates that are buying land mass and gating those roads that is actually getting accessible to that forest for observe the whole traditional rights, gathering rights of the state constitution. So at the county orderings, we gotta make sure that our planning is advising these guys that is buying land and saying, okay, with the advisement that this road needs to be open for public access to get to that forest reserve. Because there is one compliance that the state has to observe. But when the gate stays here, now it becomes a private land. So even though the forest and so far can say, yes, we can comply with the whole thing, but us cannot say because there was no determination of easement for the ingress and egress. You know what I'm saying? So with all these traditional rights, which everybody uses, because it's true, it's a state constitution, it's a law. So don't forget to say, hey, we in compliance. But these guys right here, they're gating. And the county can have the right with the planning to advise the landowner.
Planning department we would talk to? or
Yeah,
planning
because
commission?
they have the right to, they gotta tell these guys that, okay, you can buy this land, when they survey them, to realize that that land mass that you pay taxes on, this road needs to be accessible to the forest. That's where the county gotta come in, on the county ordinance. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Hey, Tony, since we did the Honeywell Garden hearing, that's when they hired Jordan. That was back in February of 2012 or 2011, I forget when we did that. By this point already, he's not up and running, he's not up to speed as far as.
He is, we're just trying to form a working group that
we can work with.
Our commissioners can communicate with him. That's what I know.
Because of the sunshine law, we cannot all be
Because
meeting
we
and all
cannot
that,
meet
so
with
only
him.
2 people can meet. So this way we can have 4 people from around the island, yeah, now, different districts and stuff with issues that, access problems in Ka'u, in Kona, Hamakua, Hilo, and so
No,
forth.
I understand that, but, you know, we requested how many times for him to meet with us. But what I'm saying is he can't handle fishing by this point. He only can handle
He has the entire state, and right here, I don't know if I could pass this around.
No,
You
but
wanna
they
see what?
formed that at that time for him to be the access manager. That was a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's out of the
You know?
scope of, I can't.
That's what I'm saying. When you guys question him, you know, you follow what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Gotcha.
this guy's
Okay,
not been
okay.
running and getting paid for a year and a half.
Okay, where are we? Okay, the main motion. Okay, any further discussion? I think that's where we're at, right? We can go back to that? Okay. Okay, I'd like to call a question, and that's basically what's stated here, so I don't have to repeat it all over again. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have 8 ayes.
Just ask for any opposed. You can go
Any
vote,
opposed?
go voice vote. All in favor, say aye. If you don't hear any opposition, you're fine. If you hear someone say something, no, then you ask for a roll call vote. Just so there's no.
All in favor?
Okay, all in favor.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Any opposed?
Hearing none, motion
Okay,
carries.
the motion is carried.
We're just protecting ourselves.
So many ways to say it. Okay. Next.
Now you can form the committee though.
Oh, yeah. Okay, really, Joe, who's gonna be on this thing?
I would like to be on it.
I would like to be on it, Rob White.
Okay.
I would, can we nominate, or can we suggest? I'd like to.
No more than 4.
I'd like to know if Mark would like to be on that. Mark?
Yeah, sure. I would like to be on it.
3.
Paul?
Okay, we have Rob, Paul, Mark, and Willie Joe.
So
Okay.
they have to, they should make a motion to accept the appointment of the members to this.
Move to accept the appointment.
Quickly.
A second.
Tom seconded. All in favor?
Who did the motion?
I did.
I made the motion.
Okay. Tom seconded. Okay.
Any opposed? There are none. The motion is carried. Last one who was crucified trying to do this. Oh my God. Okay, formation of a permitted interaction group. Does the chair hear a motion?
I motion to, of a formation of a permitted interaction group pursuant to HRS section 92-2.5, the Game Management Advisory Commission proposes to form a permitted interaction group whose members shall investigate and initiate discussions with Canana schools for the purpose of gathering information on the process and procedure of a GUI or group to perform mammal management and to discuss possible short and long-term leases.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded.
Willie Joe second.
Floor is now open for discussion. Move quickly on this.
I move that we form a working group.
It's already moved. Seconded. Okay. I'd like to hear this. Hear no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Forming the group.
I move we form the working group for Canana
Who
schools.
wants to be on it?
I do.
I do. Paul.
Wait. State the name.
Tom.
Tom.
Yeah. Paul, Tom, Tony. Anybody in Kona?
Kona, put on your mic.
Mic is on.
It's quiet over there.
They're stunned silent.
I see a lot of lips moving, but no noise.
No chem school takers there? Okay, we'll just be the 3 then. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion is carried.
Who made the motion? Who seconded?
All motion.
Paul made the motion, Tom seconded.
Tom?
What?
What?
Paul made the motion. Tom seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is a request. Guys, Cam, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, in reference to this item number 3 under new business, the 1998 stipulation. By public request, I move that the commission request corporate counsel to obtain the transcripts of the agreement for public viewing, whereby the transparency will assure stipulations of the agreement are being complied with in their entirety. Furthermore, this will substantiate any corrective advisement correspondence by GMAC to the mayor or the board. Any second?
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom seconded.
I'll second that.
Oh,
That's, Mark will second it.
okay. It has been moved and seconded that we set motion. Floor is now open for discussion. Any discussion?
Is this something that council has any disagreement with that cannot be obtained through county council? That's one thought.
I guess as I read the agenda here, I'm not quite sure what 1998 stipulation you're referring to and who you're requesting we send the request to.
The question may be, is a federal order public record? And if so, how do we get it?
The feds do comply with federal Uniform Information Practices Act.
Do we even have to go that far though?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would opine that the first step should be just a informal request to be sent to the agency who I guess, is responsible for, you know, housing the stipulation. This 19, like I said, I'm not sure.
Court meeting?
I'm not sure what this 1998 stipulation refers to. You guys probably have more
The
information than I do.
stipulation
Court order
refers to
for
the court
the
order
eradication of Bobcat.
for the aerial shooting. To use aerial shooting in their, as their method of eradication.
So it's a federal entity.
It's a federal stipulation that was made between, for what we understand, it was made with DLNR, that was their agreement, and Earth Justice.
Yeah.
Back in 1990.
The LNR is state now.
Right.
Yeah. So the state went into agreement with Earth Justice, so they wouldn't get sued.
And
That
then
they would fly twice a year to shoot
Yeah.
animals from helicopters. But the thing he's questioning is that they're supposed to be, it states that it's supposed to be the public included in the logistics planning and all this kind of stuff, where I don't think the public has ever been. It's just, we're gonna do it, we're gonna fly here, and I don't think anybody's ever been in the public or anywhere has been notified of anything. It's just,
But why don't you make a request to Corporation Council to research what entities were involved with this 1990 stipulation and come back and report the specifics of the stipulation. So then a motion can be made as to what requests you guys want to have sent out and to what entity. Because like right now, you know, I'm hearing DLNR, I'm hearing Earth Justice. None of those are federal in my mind, so I'm not sure. You know, was
No,
this?
Earth Justice went to federal court to force
They went to federal
DLNR.
court.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Instead of ruling, I guess they came to an agreement that said,
right.
these are
So,
the
although-
ways that you'll get out of it.
Right.
And
Although
then they went
to-
back to court and got it approved by
Right.
the judge
Yeah.
in
So,
federal court.
but although they're in federal court, they're still suing the state. So if there is a stipulation, the parties were Earth Justice and the state DLNR. So the state would probably be the DLNR would probably be the entity that would be the holder of the agreement. Or the other thing to do is we could pull up the court case. The other thing to do maybe is to pull up the court case, because the stipulated agreement should be, as long as it wasn't a confidential agreement, it should be codified within that, the holding of that case. The final.
We'd like to know how that agreement even got made in the first place, since section 263-10 of HRS says you can't aerial shoot.
that's Tom talking.
Oh, sorry.
He didn't hear you.
What I'll do is, you can, I would say, make the request that Corporation Council goes and investigates that.
So, okay, so.
Chair Tony?
Yes, ma'am?
I believe Lincoln knows all the ins and outs. I mean, he's the one that was introducing this thought.
That's right.
I mean, this all boils back to the discussion we had earlier about the salvage issues. And we really can't formulate anything because we can't see what supposedly is happening. I thought I heard Lincoln state that this stipulation might just be a verbal stipulation. There actually might not be a transcript. So that's what we need. We can't say, oh, we would like people to do this and do that, when we might be talking out of our derriere. And if, once we can get this 98 stipulation where we can say, look, the public's supposed to have a seat at the table, you know, we want you to stay this until you comply with it. So, so back to, was it Dan, the council, county council?
Bill?
Dale, I'm sorry, Dale. I'm sure Lincoln has.
William.
William, I'm sorry, William. I'm sure the information that you're requesting you can get from Lincoln.
Yeah, so just make the request to our office and we'll take care of it.
Okay.
So we gotta just make a motion. So I'll make a motion to request that corporate council look into this 1998 stipulation and kind of report back to us on that.
Second.
Clear enough.
Okay.
I second it.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Those, I guess that's it. No questions. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Who's going to run the motion down? 'Cause I didn't. Okay. Any further new business? Rob, how you doing, Rob?
Would this be an appropriate time to catch everybody up on the two issues I've sort of been following, which is the website and the spearfishing on scuba issue?
It's not on the agenda.
Okay.
Sorry. Next one. That was Bobby, not me. Sorry.
I'm sorry,
I know.
I withdraw that, that statement and I defer to William.
Sorry, Rob. Okay,
Mr. Command is absolutely correct.
announcements, okay, well, next meeting, July 15th, 6:30 Kilo. Right now, we have,
I'm sorry, July 16th, you said?
July 15th, we have Mike Robinson coming, and we're gonna have Representative Onishi coming to talk about the revolving fund and how we can make some changes to that to acquire more money to do some of these hunting projects. And then we'll try to add, I want to see how, if we can add whatever comments and stuff like that you guys want to do at that time, if we can do that. If not, well, I might make a special meeting. So guys, we might have to make something in a couple of weeks so we can take care of their issues. If this is going to be too long, because we're going to have these guys there, and that's kind of, it's going to be fixed on that. And then Esther Kiana is scheduled for August 26th. So we're going to start bringing the deal on our people in. So, I mean, it'd be great if you guys could come and then at that time
With
still.
all the hunters and
What's that?
with others. Us and the hunters, right? And
Yeah, that's
all the
why-
gatherers.
Yeah. So over the next few days, I'll probably see if we can do like a special meeting to just address their issues. Because this is already a scheduled once a month, but being that this is a pressing issue and you guys came forward, that we could have one meeting just to address your guys' issues there. As long as I get it as soon as possible though, so I can put the agenda together. It takes 6 days. I gotta get it 6 days
For
before to
publishing.
publish. And that's why last time was trouble because Tuesday was a holiday.
Well, thank you for amending the process.
I have a question, on Rod's report. Isn't that a special committee?
Rob, which was?
No, on the website, isn't he a special committee?
Rob was the website of special committee?
Yeah, it was. He and I are on it.
No, I don't believe the website would be a special committee because of the sunshine law, but I could be wrong there.
Yeah.
It is at present status, the website technically is not an official GMAC product. So it is actually more of a blog, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask if, for the next meeting, are we going to try and get everybody in the same place? Or are we still gonna do the whole?
Is this unsatisfactory?
Well,
It's better.
I just feel bad for Barbara over there. She's having a hard time, communicating, and I don't know if it's something
So the
that
August meeting
we
is
should
gonna
do
be
or
in
not.
Kona. So July's meeting is here, and the
But
special meeting we'll make to take the hunter concerns and
Right.
Pelican defense will probably be here, but preferably a bigger building, you think, or?
But I guess what I'm asking is, are we gonna,
Maybe ask Barbara.
are we gonna switch back and forth?
Did this work out better, Barbara?
What?
Well, we don't have any choices in Kona as far as the video conferencing equipment goes.
No,
And, with the larger room.
Right.
We
But
could
my
probably use council chambers, that's a huge room.
I guess my request was just to have all the commissioners in one place, you know, with you so that you can actually hear what everybody's saying and know what everybody's saying. It's just a suggestion.
August meeting is gonna be scheduled that way, and then
Okay.
when William Isla commits, that one also is gonna be in Kona too. So we would have those 2 meetings, we would come to Kona.
So you both coming over then? all
Yes,
of
we would
you?
be coming
Yes.
over for that.
Okay. We'll schedule a large room.
If there's no objections, or do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I second that.
It's moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
8:39.
Thank you, everybody. 8:39.
Josh, I'm gonna look there.
What's that? Just missed everything. It's adjourned. We can talk. We're off the record now.
You know,
Although we can't.
no, because he came to my attention, my district not properly represented. So the whole thing is, I had my papers in there and somehow never getting there.